Hi, everybody. Welcome to another one of our live video chats today. We're joined again by Justin and Justin, the two Justins for the price of one. They're going to be talking about the legislation that is currently making its way through Congress, has changed a lot up to this point. And they're kind of going to go through what's in there at the moment, and try to keep you guys up to date. I'm going to leave the Q&A open from the start, so if you have questions, go ahead and type them in there, and I'll vet them while the two of these guys are taking you through the aid package. Welcome, guys.
Hey, thanks. It's good to be back. The last couple of days have been quite the roller coaster. They like to say about the legislative process, you don't want to go see how the sausage is made, and the sausage was made very publicly in the last couple of days, as Republicans and Democrats on the Senate have haggled, but in relatively short order in terms of how Capitol Hill works. $2 trillion package that will directly help a lot of our member businesses that have been directly affected by this pandemic. So last night at about 11:40, the Senate passed the CARES Act 96-0. Before we get into the details, I'll just run through sort of the timeline as we know it. The Senate passed the bill, sent it to the House of Representatives. The majority leader in the House, Steny Hoyer, has said they have scheduled a vote for 9 a.m. on Friday. That will be a voice vote, meaning they will not need to do a roll call, hopefully. Currently, the House is on vacation, or not on vacation, on recess, so they are not all in Washington. So a roll call vote would be a little more problematic in terms of timeline. They will do the roll call or the voice vote, and then as soon as they pass that, the bill goes to the president. We would expect at that point that the president would sign the bill relatively quickly, and it would be enacted into law Friday afternoon or Saturday morning. So that is the timeline. A lot of big ticket items, obviously, in this package. I think two of the most prevalent and the two that we've gotten the most questions on so far would be the Small Business Paycheck Protection Program and the unemployment insurance provisions in the bill. Justin can dive a little bit deeper into this, but essentially, the Paycheck Protection Program will infuse about $349 billion into loans that are modeled after the existing SBA 7A program with 100% government guarantee. They are directed for small businesses as defined by SBA size standards, which are under 500 employees. They also include businesses in the accommodation and food service sector, as well as 501c3 nonprofits and sole proprietors, self-employed individuals, and independent contractors. So there are several new categories that will be eligible for this program specifically. What this will allow you to do is to go seek out a loan. All lenders can provide loans. The Department of Treasury is going to lay that out, but there are roughly 800 plus lenders and likely more that the Treasury will authorize. Will allow you to get a loan that will roughly be the equivalent of 2.5 months worth of your monthly payroll costs, not to exceed $10 million. The payroll costs will include compensation paid to individuals, including the self-employed, or they will exclude individuals making more than $100,000 a year. So the requirements would be the employer certifies loan will be used to retain workers, maintain payroll, make mortgage or lease payments, and pay utilities during that term period. And the borrowers shall have a portion of their loan forgiven in the amount equal to the payroll costs, interest payments on mortgage, rent, and utility payments between February 15th and June 30th, 2020. And then if you do all of that, you don't lay anybody off, those loans will become a grant. And the loan forgiveness will be reduced if the borrower reduces employment by a ratio similar to the reduction in their employment. So if you reduce your staff by a considerable margin, then you would owe that much of that loan back. Justin, 2.0.
Yeah.
Talk to us and give us a little more of a deep dive for our members as to what all this possibly means for them.
Yeah, great overview. And to tell you guys, to give a little more flavor as to how this process worked. Friday, when the bill was filed, it was 190 pages. Sunday evening, it was 340. By Wednesday morning, I think it was 570. And the bill that was voted on was in excess of 800. And all of that happened in about a 5-day period. High level, Justin hit the nail on the head. The devil is really in the details. So you have a 500 employee threshold to be a small business. There are certain affiliation rules if you have a parent subsidiary or sister company relationship. There's certain modifications if you're in the restaurant industry, if you're in a franchise, or if based on your NAISC code or CS code, it can go up to 1,500. But 500 is kind of the benchmark. 2.5 times monthly payroll costs is right. Payroll cost includes wages. It includes group health insurance premiums. It includes retirement benefits and the like. So it's not just the wages that you actually pay to employees. And one slight clarification, and I only know this because I just looked at it, it does not exclude workers making more than $100,000. It only includes compensation up to $100,000. So if you have someone that's making over $100,000, you can't factor that excess when you're determining the payroll costs. But add all that up, and it's 2.5 times. And Justin's right. If use it to pay rent, use it to pay payroll, use it to pay utilities and interest, mortgage obligations. And then if you get to the end of the June 30, 2020 period, and your staff at that snapshot essentially matches the staff ratio at a prior snapshot. And there are a couple of different periods. One's in 2019, one's in 2020, and you get to elect. But essentially, the impetus is if you don't lay people off, or if you've already laid people off and you bring them back before June 30, then the loan is 100% forgiven. It's turned into a grant. So, I mean, essentially, it's free money if you can use it to pay these statutorily required obligations and then, keep people at work. A couple of points. We hear the money is going to be flowing quickly. I think the Secretary of Treasury said last night that his hope would be people could walk into the bank next Friday and walk out with money. That maybe is a bit, perhaps a bit ambitious, but you see they're trying to flood the market with this cash. And what that means too is separate and apart from the 500 employee threshold, there are not a lot of other requirements that you used to see with pretty stringent SBA loans. For example, to get an SBA loan under current law, you had to prove that you were unable to access credit elsewhere. That requirement has been removed as well. So it really opens up on the front end a free flow of money to the economy, and in the hopes that small businesses, think some of the restaurants that are around town, think some of the places that have been forced to shut down can continue paying their staff and keep the doors open as we weather this storm.
So that's great. And just to give you some context of what $350 billion looks like, for one quarter, that is roughly 48% of the entire payroll for businesses 500 and under for the entire country. So they are flooding a lot of money into the system to allow businesses that have been directly impacted by this to sort of weather this storm and kind of tread water. Go ahead, Justin. Do you have something?
Nope, you're right.
The other two other key components that we've heard a lot about are the direct payments to American citizens. There will be one payment. There was some talk that there might be two payments, but there will be one payment going directly to American citizens. It will be a $1,200 payment for anyone that gross adjusted income was $75,000 or less. It will be staggered.
2018 income, right, Justin?
The last time you filed your income taxes. So if you filed it for this year, it would be your 2019. If you filed it before, if you haven't filed it yet, it'll be your 2018 return. It's the last return on file. If you file jointly, each of you would get $1,200. You get $1,200 each. at the $150,000 or less, you get $500 per child. And if you are over that 75 threshold but under $99,000, they will take $5 off for every $100 you made over that $75,000 threshold. So if you're making $99,000 or less, you will see a payment. If you have a direct deposit already on file with the IRS, they will use that direct deposit information to send you the money directly. That will be the fastest way for those of you that would get this benefit of the plan. You'll get it rather quickly. If you are, there's some talk about a delay in getting checks out sort of quicker, so you may have a little bit longer of a wait. The IRS is looking at maybe doing direct debit cards as opposed to cutting checks as a way to sort of help streamline that. But again, the idea would be to get cash into the hands of individuals as quickly as possible as well. Obviously, April 1 is coming soon. People are worried about rent and bills, so they're going to try to push that out. That may take a week or two longer to get that sort of in the pipeline, but that will be coming. The last big piece as well is the unemployment insurance extension programs. So above and beyond what each state does in terms of unemployment, this package extends unemployment insurance by 13 weeks and includes a 4-month enhancement of benefits. That would be $600 a week more than whatever your state offers in terms of unemployment insurance. So, and basically you have to be directly affected by the coronavirus in some way, shape, or form, meaning you're caring for someone that has it, you have it, your place of employment has shuttered in the short term or the long term for that matter. So it does not apply to people that can telework with pay. It does not cover someone getting paid leave or paid sick leave or paid family leave. Those are a couple of those. There is no 1-week waiting requirement anymore, and the federal government's going to pick up 100% of the additional cost. And that the additional payments will sunset on July 31st. What else do you want to get into on that, Justin? I know there's a lot, probably more there than just what I said.
Well, the main thing, let's really put some numbers in it for the state of Tennessee. So the way unemployment works is your weekly benefit amount is based on your earnings in the highest 4 out of the preceding 5 quarters, which is called the base period. So they look at the earnings in your base period, and then they calculate based on a formula how much your weekly benefit amount would be. The maximum weekly benefit amount in the state of Tennessee right now is $275. So with this stimulus package, it would tack on $600 on top of that. So you're getting $875 a week, which is pretty significant for someone who's just lost their job. I mean, I think that equates to 21 something per hour based on a 40-hour work week. Now, interestingly, you saw a little bit of political wrangling yesterday afternoon. Senators Graham, Scott, and Sassy were objecting to the $600 being a flat amount. Their theory was, hey, you know, I think Lindsey Graham said in my state, the maximum amount is $320. So somebody can go make $920 a week, regardless of their compensation, $920 a week to be unemployed. So he forced a vote on an amendment. That amendment was voted down at about 11:15 last night, 48-48. It needed 60 to win. So what that means is your weekly benefit amount is based on your earnings. That gets pegged, and then whatever it is, no matter what you made, $600 gets put on top of it from the federal government.
And again, that is for a tight window of time. That is not going to be elongated. And you have to, the minute that your employer says, you know, we want to bring you back to work, you would be ineligible to continue receiving that benefit. So right. Just a couple of clarifiers there as well.
Sure. Hey guys, sorry. I just before we move on to something else, we have a question that I think applies directly to this. Are there any guidelines on how those funds can be spent, or is it discretionary?
With respect to unemployment,
I'm guessing here, but the question showed up when y'all were talking about unemployment. So
So with respect to unemployment, the answer is no. There's no restriction. It's treated just like any income you would have. You have the discretion to go spend it on your rent, spend it on your car payment, spend it on groceries, or spend it on bubble gum. Whatever the case may be, the state doesn't put any restrictions on that money that it gives to you. If you're talking, if the person who asked the question is talking about the small business loan, there are restrictions on that in terms of if you want it to be forgiven, it has to be used for payroll, rent, mortgage, and utilities.
Okay. They were talking about the stimulus funds, which are the SBA loans you were just talking about, correct, right, Justin? So I think you just answered the question.
Great. And there's a whole lot of other stuff in this that we can kind of oversee. There's $100 billion for hospitals. Chuck Schumer kept referring to it as the healthcare Marshall Plan. Obviously, we're gonna see a lot of hospital systems in some trouble as we sort of fight numbers. We're seeing in New York City right now, catastrophic numbers, and hospitals trying to get the resources that they need. Obviously, we've got testing that is now coming online based on a public-private partnership that the FDA, the federal government, and several of the large national private labs have kind of struck. You saw here yesterday in Hamilton County an agreement with the lab at Baylor School to help us push more tests. And that's not to go get a test, that's to process the results of tests taken other places. So as those come online, we'll need more resources. You're hearing a lot about N95 masks and personal protective gear for hospital employees. All of those things hopefully will start to come on the pipeline, but there's a lot of funding there. Obviously there's support for really affected industries, hotels, airlines, hospitality industry specifically, hotel, money for systems in here as well. Just a lot of money, $2 trillion. It's 10% of the gross national product in one package. It's unlike anything that this country's ever attempted to do at one time. So those are just, again, some more of the highlights. Anything else in particular, Justin, that you think is important to bring up on this plan?
Not, I was going to say not significant, but that seems trivial considering the scope of the plan. But just in terms of, we were so focused last week on the employment laws that were passed and the leave laws. There wasn't much other than unemployment compensation. There wasn't much by way of employment-related laws in this package. They did make some technical clarifications as to the laws they passed last week, and significantly, a couple of things they did is, one, they made it clear that in terms of the payroll tax credits you get for providing the paid leave, you can advance those, so you don't have to pay them in and then try to get them back. You can go ahead and take them off on the front end. Second, they instituted what I call a payroll tax holiday. So essentially for your payroll taxes that you would otherwise, and I'm pretty sure this is limited to FICA, so your 6.2 and then your additional 1.45% that everybody has to pay quarterly, you can pay that over a 2-year period. So your 2020 taxes, you can pay half in 2021 and half in 2022. And then there's a fairly complicated deduction for payroll taxes for industries or for companies that had a greater than 50% loss in gross receipts during specific quarters, but nevertheless kept their staff employed and kept paying payroll. There's a deduction there as well. But other than that, you hit the big ticket items.
One more thing too, for those of you that are paying back federal student loans, there is a provision in here that requires the Secretary of Education to defer student loan payments, principal, and interest through September 30th, 2020 without borrower penalty. It also suspends reporting to credit agencies and suspends all involuntary collection on defrauded student loans, including wage garnishments and reduction in tax refunds and other government provided benefits. So there's another pocket of folks that could potentially see some more money in their pocket in the next month.
Okay, we've got a few questions if you guys are open to taking those.
Absolutely.
Is there any documentation needed to prove that unemployment occurred because of COVID-19?
So the way this is typically going to work is your company is going to have to file either a mass layoff form if they're laying off a bunch of people, or file an individual separation notice. And they're typically going to have to put in there the reason for discharge. It doesn't have to necessarily say COVID-19. Typically, what a lot of people are going to do is put in lack of work. It's COVID related, but it is going to be lack of work. I don't recall seeing anything in the new unemployment statute that would require a specific designation of it being COVID related. I think it's almost assumed just at this point, if you're terminated for lack of work during this pandemic period, then you're going to qualify for it.
Okay, and that sort of keys up another question here. Anonymous said, we laid off a few employees this week. Will they eventually qualify for the additional $600 a week in federal unemployment benefits?
Yes, I believe those benefits are retroed back to February 15.
Mm-hmm.
Good. I'm getting a head nod. So yeah, the benefits are retroed back to anybody who was laid off as of February 15. So those folks would get it.
Yeah, so that window is February the 15th through June the 30th, 2020. Is the window that right now the legislation covers.
Okay. And are sole proprietors excluded from the stimulus SBA forgivable loans?
No.
They put in specific provisions for sole proprietors and anybody self-employed, sort of with a focus on the gig economy. Obviously, they're a group that's going to be adversely affected by this. So they put specific language adding those groups into the package. I believe sole proprietors, self-employed, and independent contractors are all now covered in these programs based on this package that was passed in the Senate last night.
Okay, I think that's everything we've got for the moment. One thing I do want to say, this is probably not the last that we're going to see some legislation come out related to COVID-19. And you know, as both Justin said up front, this bill ended up being, what was it, 800 and something pages long. So we've only covered this is the tip of the iceberg here.
Right.
So we're going to do our best to keep you guys informed. I have a feeling this will not be the last one of these that we do. But we will keep, as developments keep happening, we'll keep doing our best to keep everybody informed. Thank you both for being here and helping walk us through all this.
Of course.
Thank you. And Jeremy, I will say, you know, when the reporting is done on massive pieces of legislation like this by people who haven't always read the bill, there's sometimes some information that's not quite accurate. So don't just take things at face value. Don't just assume if you have 501 employees, you don't qualify. Don't just assume this, that, or the other. Actually talk to someone, talk to Justin, talk to me, find someone who's actually read the legislation and knows what it says. Don't just read a news article and assume that you either do or don't qualify.
Yeah, and I would second that and say once this package becomes law, the Treasury and the administration will actually write rules on how these programs are to be used as well. So there will be more guidance coming out as you know the payment protection plan comes out and some of these other things that are a little more ambiguous right now. There will be more clarification coming. Jeremy, to your point, I mean, there's already talk of a phase 4. I think that will be sort of more towards the back end of where we are in this pandemic. So there will be more coming. I think somebody said this isn't a true stimulus package. This is more of a tread water while the economy has been frozen package, and then we'll stimulate the economy when we come back. And sort of we've bent the curve back where we need it to be. So there will be more to talk about. Obviously, again, Friday morning will be a key vote In the House side, assuming that goes well, this could be in play very quickly at this point. So we will continue to keep these posted. Feel free to email me, Jay Groenert, Groenert, at ChattanoogaChamber.com if you're interested in signing up, get our daily policy updates. There's been a lot in them, obviously, as of late. As a lot of these packages sort of get done, it might slow up a little bit. But if anybody's interested in getting that information, shoot me a quick email. I'll add you to the list, and we'll try to keep you as updated as we can. Obviously, check our Facebook page, check our social media sites, and our website as well for all the information that our team is putting together to help guide you through this unprecedented time.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.